Hello, 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 good people. This is Reverend Jocelyn here, and I help people, particularly churches, to become places of healing and not trauma. And today I want to talk about the importance of being a community, a faith community that has a plan in place when someone is in a state of crisis, a plan of response. And one of the things that I thought would be a good example to drive home this point is for you to think about if at some point there was a fire that broke out in your church, like an actual fire. That would not be the time for you to say, "Oh, did we ever get those fire extinguishers in place?" Or, "Oh, maybe we should check that fire alarm." No, because the whole church is on fire, right? So at that point, it's a little too late to be thinking about that. But when it comes to our church members who we are responsible for caring for, we do that. We do that. We wait until the fire breaks out to say, oh, we should have something in place for people who experience loss due to some traumatic event or experience abuse or experience some type of other tragedy. And my challenge to faith leaders today is let's be more proactive because if we desire to be a place of healing versus a place of causing harm and possibly trauma to people, even if it's unintentional, then one of the things we can do is to make sure that we intentionally build practices in place. And so I want to talk about three practices that you can implement right away to help you to become prepared for those crisis events that surely will happen. Number one, it is vitally important. I can't stress this enough for church leaders to intentionally make sure that their frontline workers, the ministry leaders, whoever's over the sisterhood ministry, the brotherhood ministry, over with choir, whoever's the head deacon, has some level of trauma informed care training, at least trauma 101, for them to understand the basics of how trauma shows up, right? For them to say, okay, if someone comes to us in this state where they are in this state of crisis, if they've gone through something, having the language, having a response so that they don't re traumatize the person in the process. So, having some training, some basic knowledge to be able to hold space safely for someone is number one. Number two, it is important for you to know who to call when it's time to refer. Now, that's one of the things that sometimes we mess up with the church. We think that we can do it all. We have very good intentions now, very good intentions to provide care and support to people. But sometimes it gets over your head in terms of the level of care that someone might need. And this is why it's important for you to have trusted people who you can refer individuals to who knows how to support someone who is going through a traumatic event, who has the training, who has the bandwidth, right, to provide the type of care that someone needs. Because we all know we love our pastors at our church. Everyone wants to see the pastor, right? But first and foremost, the pastor, unless they've gone to school for this, has not been trained to address certain issues that are traumatic. But number two, the pastor is busy as all get out. The pastor's not meant to do all things, right? But the pastor can provide care up until a point in terms of maybe one or two or even three pastoral care sessions. But then we must understand it's time to refer if that person needs additional care, if they're in a state of crisis, right? And so having those points of contact already identified so that when someone comes to you and says, I've been sexually assaulted, when someone comes to you saying, I'm in an abusive marriage, when someone comes to you and said, I just lost someone to gun violence, these things are happening in our community. You won't be there like, oh my gosh, what do I do? No, you'll have a referral list in place of people who you or organizations that you can refer people to get the help that they need. Okay. So that's number two. Number three, and that kind of builds off, number three builds off the other ones, having your standard operating procedures in place around, okay, when these things happen, this is who we call, this is how this is handled, this is how this is documented, this is what we do, this is what we don't do. Having practices in place that your ministry leaders are trained on. And this is revisited because, sometimes we write policies, we might have them written up and it's collecting dust. You know what I'm talking about. But if we are intentional about making sure that our ministry leaders, when they come on board, right, get this, we actually train someone who gets into a ministry leadership position to understand that this is how our church handles certain situations. This is the standard of care to make sure that they don't cause harm. It can make a big difference as it relates to keeping those standards so that when the crisis does break out, when the fire happens, that person is handled with the care that they need so that they can receive healing. Now, this is just a short message that I put together for you all just to kind of share some things that are top of mind around this issue. But if you are someone who's in leadership at your church, or you see that this is really an issue and you want some additional support that's actually documented, I encourage you to download this free e-booklet. And when I say e-booklet, it's really just a resource guide that just walks you through step by step. What are some things that your congregation can do to become a trauma healing church? We talk about the practices of getting those resource guides together, bringing in resources and tools. It is completely free. I put all of my tips into this one guide, and you can get this by visiting traumahealingchurch.com. Again, that is traumahealingchurch.com. So be sure to get your free guide and please make a comment. Let me know what stood out to you from this video. I would love to hear from you. All right, that's it for today. Again, I'm Reverend Jocelyn, and I equip churches to become places of healing and not trauma. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.